Do you know someone obsessed with religion? Trigger warning. Viewer discretion advised. Nothing said here should be interpreted as a criticism or negative judgment of religious faith. This is taken from the Very Religious chapter, from the book, Is Your Loved One Mental? 50 Things to Look For, available on Amazon. In this book, you learn how to spot serious mental illness. In so doing, you will less likely be a victim of senseless violence, and will be better prepared to help the mentally ill. While many people having schizophrenia are not involved in religious practice, I have found that some of the most religiously obsessed people are schizophrenic. We have all likely observed this, but have not made the connection between hyper-religiosity and mental illness. Schizophrenic people often become very active in their church, and they tend to be drawn to more conservative or fundamentalist, religious denominations. Many of the mentally ill people I have worked with have talked about hearing saintly voices or the voice of Jesus, God, Buddha, etc., talking to them, and have been reassured by the voices they hear, that they are good, righteous, or godly. These voices may also tell them that they are intelligent, attractive, kind, wise, and such. Whatever is admired or esteemed by the schizophrenic person is often then incorporated into the specific manifestations of their psychotic symptoms, including their auditory hallucinations. Many of the very sexually active female schizophrenics I have assessed, who seem to value their appeal to others above all else, have reported that the voices they hear tell them they are pretty or sexy. Occasionally, I have assessed a woman who believed that Jesus, God, or even the devil, wanted to have an intimate, sexual relationship with her. I recall a pleasant young schizophrenic woman, who greatly valued her appearance and charm, and put a lot of time and effort into her makeup and attire. She reported that she heard a voice telling her that Jesus wanted to have sex with her, so that she could bear his child. This woman felt honored to have been chosen for this, and said that she looked forward to consummating the arrangement. A young schizophrenic man I evaluated heard a voice telling him that he was Jesus, and had been resurrected to take Christians to heaven. He was convinced that it was the voice of God that told him this. While living with his parents, he attended church with them, and during a sermon, he jumped up onto the pulpit alongside the pastor, and addressed the congregation. He told them that he was Jesus returned, and that all loyal members of the congregation should approach the pulpit and prepare to ascend to heaven with him. Shortly afterward, he was hospitalized in a psychiatric facility. Over the years, this mentally ill man had caused his parents no small amount of distress, embarrassment, and money expenditure. I was asked to perform a psychological evaluation of a woman whom the authorities had picked up and hospitalized. After neighbors called the police to report that she was in her backyard, talking incoherently in a loud voice, while her young children were inside the home, unsupervised. She was hospitalized and her children placed in foster care. When I saw her, after stabilization on psychotropic medication, she was quite lucid and articulate. I asked her about the events that led to her hospitalization. She said that she had been speaking in tongues while in her backyard, that this was an accepted practice within her church, and should not be criticized or judged negatively by others. Frequently, schizophrenic people are hospitalized in psychiatric facilities after their functioning deteriorates and they come to act very strangely within the community, often after they have stopped taking their medication. After hospitalization and successful treatment with antipsychotic medication, they often then try to revise their past, framing embarrassing behavior in a normal light. The disturbed person may minimize the strangeness of their behavior, and insist that there wasn't anything so odd about it after all. I asked the aforementioned woman about an event at her church that was recorded in her medical chart. The chart noted that she had run to the pulpit of her church, and got up on it alongside the minister. She then yelled at the congregation that she was Jesus, and being crucified. The notes said that she screamed and shrieked as if in pain, and appeared to the parishioners to be in an acute state of distress. When I saw her, her description of this event was very different from the chart entry. She insisted that she had just gotten carried away by the fiery sermon, but had never believed that she was Jesus Christ, or that she was being crucified. Another schizophrenic woman I evaluated had a history of psychiatric hospitalization, after she would become grandiose and act bizarrely in public. She was charming and flirtatious, and had a reputation for acting out sexually within the treatment facility. She had been counseled by staff that this behavior was being targeted for change, and monitored. With some hesitation, this young woman confessed that a voice she believed to be God's told her to be a good Christian and spread love. She took this to mean that she should give of herself to others, including sexually. Some of the schizophrenics with whom I have worked have believed that they could heal others through their sexual encounters with them. They have thought that by having sex with someone, they could take away that person's pain, worry, distress, anger, etc. Not infrequently, mentally ill people have told me that they are actually God, Jesus, or some other prominent figure. Many times, they have heard a voice that convinced them that they are a deity. Just as often, I have seen people who used to believe that they were God, Jesus, Buddha, etc., but no longer believe this, after successful treatment with antipsychotic medication that largely restored their sanity. Down through the ages, there have been many people who believed they heard God or Jesus talking to them. And many a schizophrenic person has thought that they were divine. While I have never met a patient who convinced me of this, I have encountered many charismatic schizophrenics, some who were able to convince gullible others that they were an important religious figure. Some schizophrenic people have considerable charm, and will draw others to them, especially the mentally ill. Certainly, there have been schizophrenic leaders of religious groups, more often cults, who have had their followers come to regard them as a deity, to be followed and obeyed. Many cult leaders have seemed to me to be likely schizophrenics. When someone with schizophrenia hears a pleasant voice talking to them, they often report that it sounds like a deceased loved one, or the voice of a loved one from whom they are now physically separated. Many times, it is the voice of a cherished and deceased grandparent they report hearing, or it is the voice of a mother, father, aunt, dear friend, and the like. This voice will often direct the schizophrenic person to be good and behave well. Many adolescent schizophrenics I have seen were placed in group homes due to inappropriate, often criminal, behavior. These youth have often reported hearing the voice of their mother or grandmother, telling them, quotes, to do good. This voice may tell them not to lose their temper, to do as staff says, to do their schoolwork, to get good grades, not to assault others, etc. These command hallucinations motivate the mentally ill person to conduct themselves in a more socially acceptable fashion, so that they can graduate from the program in which they have been placed, and be reunited with loved ones. Hearing an evil or bad voice, while also hearing a voice that is good or positive, is often a very confusing experience for the mentally ill person, who then feels caught in the middle of a struggle between good and evil. People have told me that they have the devil sitting on one shoulder, and Jesus, God, or an angel, seated on the other. The devil voice instructs them to harm themselves and others, to steal, to run away, and to do a whole host of inappropriate things, while the good or supportive voice tells them to do good and not to listen to the devil. The good voice might say to them, "Don't listen to the devil, never mind what he's saying, don't do it, that's just the devil trying to mess with your mind, you know you shouldn't do that, pay him no mind," etc. The unfortunate schizophrenic person feels caught in the middle, and will often oscillate between complying with the evil voice, and complying with the voice that instructs them to do good, so as not to offend either party. Non-schizophrenic people with religious leanings will clarify that when they pray, they do not literally hear God talking to them. The person with schizophrenia, who hears God or Jesus talking to them, may be guarded about this, and minimize or rationalize the experience when talking with others. The schizophrenic may insist that what they hear is merely a reflection of their close relationship with God. They may say, "I have an intimate relationship with God. I talk to God all the time. God and I are very close, we have a special relationship." At first, the mentally ill person's description of their relationship with the divine may seem unremarkable, and perhaps consistent with the experience of a devout person of faith. But upon closer inspection, and usually with some resistance, the schizophrenic may come to admit that they do actually hear God talking to them, at least some of the time. At that point, the relationship is no longer merely the product of religious reverence, but has indeed entered the realm of mental illness, with the psychotic person experiencing auditory hallucinations. For the second half of the very religious chapter, from Is Your Loved One Mental? 50 Things to Look For, see Part 2.